Good morning.
All right, to other conversations. Now, a bill to mandate the establishment of physical offices by social media platforms within Nigeria's territorial boundaries has successfully scaled the second reading in the Senate. The bill, titled A Bill for an Act to Amend the Nigeria Data Protection Act 2023, aims to ensure that multinational social media companies set up physical offices in Nigeria, addressing the growing need for better local representation and addressing challenges associated with digital engagement. Well, joining us to unpack this now, we have Mr. Amori Dowares, the founder, partner, ENC Legal, joining me right here in the studio. It's great to have you.
Thank you for having me, Lady. Happy birthday in arrears again.
Thank you, thank you. It was a good one, you know, at this point.
Yes.
So, you know, looking at...
there were no tariffs.
Well, tariffs on my birthday, well, maybe some announcements.
No personal tariffs.
No personal tariffs, yes, yeah. So that's good, for me at this point. Thank you so much. So, you know, looking at these social media platforms, we use social media a lot. It almost seems we cannot do without social media. And if you look at, you know, most of the African countries and the time spent on social media, top 5, we see Kenya, that was for 2024. They spent about 3 hours, 43 minutes. South Africa spent 3 hours, 37 minutes. Nigeria comes in at 3 hours, 23 minutes. Ghana, 2 hours, 43 minutes. So we're smack in the middle there, you know, looking at the top 5. So we spend a lot of time on social media.
I even think that, so there's conflicting data on this.
Right.
Web Index says we spend 4 hours. We're actually topping.
Oh, so we have 4 hours
yes,
now?
Yes, at the latest, right. We're actually leading a little over 4 hours.
So it makes sense for these companies to set up shop here?
Well, I think that we shouldn't go to, we should distill the issues, right? So if you look at the economic impact of social media usage in Nigeria, about 72% of businesses, small and medium-scale businesses, have established that they cannot function without integrating a social media marketing plan into their systems, which means that social media has become a mainstay into our economic well-being, right? But then you look at what are the issues? Why do you want a physical office, right? This bill talks about 2 things. It talks about social media offices having offices in Nigeria. It also talks about bloggers having verifiable addresses and a verifiable data of employees, right? Which is
and we know some of these bloggers
don't
like to be seen.
Faceless and nameless and all that, right? So I think that what the bill should set out to do is to create a clear balance between verifying the identity of these platforms that are disseminating information and also maintaining some level of anonymity to build journalistic independence and security, right? But what is the focus of the bill? What is the intendment of the bill? The intendment is to say if Nigeria is cultivating a large spectrum in the digital social media space, we should benefit a bit more economic impact, having them have offices, employing Nigerians, transfer of knowledge, and the likes, which is good. But I think we can also achieve that without the necessity of physical offices, right? But it is also important that for a country as large as ours, 200 million people utilizing social media, Spotify alone paid over $36 million last year alone to Nigerian creators through its platform, right? And cumulatively, you have over $148 million in revenue generated.
Because almost everyone is a content creator.
Exactly. So that tells you that the numbers are high, right? And billions and even trillions of naira is being made on these social media platforms, right? It's being generated and made, right, by Nigerians and generated for these platforms. So having physical offices are good.
So is that enough economically, you know, seeing that some Nigerians are making a lot of money on this social media platform? Is that enough?
No. So it's not enough for... If you have a system in place, right, it helps build what you call sustainable growth. it helps create knowledge transfer. Transfer of knowledge is very key. It's unfortunate that our technology transfer arrangements have not worked as they should ideally work, right? That's why you had NOTAP. The idea is to transfer knowledge and build indigenous autochthonous technology, autochthonous system, autochthonous knowledge, and reduce foreign dependence, so to speak. So if you're making so much from us, if we form, Nigeria has the highest social media usage in Africa, right? And we're the most populous black nation on earth. It should be a no-brainer that you should want to set up an office in Nigeria, right? But then, not too far from this corridor is the ease of doing business challenge. Twitter was in Nigeria. Twitter had to close shop and move to Ghana. They had challenges that led them there. So we must begin to look at fixing these challenges. Is it necessary for them to come?
Because that means Meta, X, and all of them, they'll have to deal with band A issues.
Well, they'll have to deal with those. They'll have to deal with those issues. But you see, nowhere in the world do you have the consuming numbers as much as you have in Nigeria. Let's be very honest. We hardly produce, we consume. We do a lot of importation. So if you look at the e-commerce, the online e-commerce space, go check out Temu's data and the level of orders that come to this part of the world.
Right.
Right? So that will just give you a bit of an idea. Nigerians are big-time purchasers, big-time users. So if the telecom companies tell you how much they generate on data alone, right? You cannot separate this conversation from the data around it, right? And where the data drives you to is that you have a solid market. Now, these companies can no longer rely on the pockets of challenges that they have in setting up as reason not to have physical offices here. But where I, slightly have a divergent view is that you can hold them accountable on all fours even without having a physical address, right? The UK has rules around ensuring a sanitized digital space and ensuring compliance. The US has, liability frameworks in place where the service providers have liabilities, where the creators have liabilities, where the end users have liabilities, and the lines are not blurred at all, right? So you're able to hold them accountable. FIRS, I know that the Finance Act has pushed, a bit to get the tax framework VAT on a lot of, this revenue that's coming in, so we can get a chunk of it. Yes, we must solidify that, right? But these companies cannot rely on the fact that, okay, we have ease of doing business challenges to say, oh, based on this, we really can't have physical space offices in Nigeria, right? I know that some of them do, but if we are a large chunk of your numbers, then you should look at opening shop here, not just in the air, but a physical shop, especially when it comes to troubleshooting challenges, especially when it comes to dispute resolution management, right? So a lot of the dispute resolution that comes from utilizing these platforms are problematic to resolve and leave Nigerians at the mercy of these platforms because they really are not bound by the laws of Nigeria.
Okay.
The dispute resolution framework takes. Imagine you are somewhere in Oshodi and you have a problem with a particular company and you don't have any way to get to California or to get to Europe. You don't have any way to resolve your dispute.
You can send them an email.
Right? So you send them an email and you are at their mercy.
Right.
Right? You either wait for them to respond to you and all that. And even when you sue, there are so many nuances around those challenges. The big giants have offices. The Meta is here. Right? But a lot more. Okay. Social media has morphed into so much and, and continues to morph.
It's a giant, at this point. But I'm wondering, okay, this becomes law and these platforms say, we're not coming to set up shop. What next?
Then, so here's the thing. We must look at the markets, right? So this is where the bargaining chips come into play. Right? We must look at the markets to understand. All these platforms are businesses. And these are data-driven businesses. And the primary creators of data are human beings. right? So we are churning out data by everything we do on social media. So they need these numbers, they need these people, and it's a boost, right, to their business. If it becomes law and they choose not to be bound by it, so what they are saying is that they want to exclude the largest black market in the world. Would that be a sensible thing to do? I do not think so, right? However, I know that the Senate has passed it to the committee stage, where it is expected that the committee will liaise with practitioners and stakeholders in the space. We hope that when we have that conversation with the Senate committee, some of these nuances will be addressed, because implementation is very key. Oftentimes we make laws in a very sweeping manner, right, without looking at the nuances of the actual implementation and even the oversight you intend to create, right? Already we have a data protection framework, a privacy and data protection framework that is morphing into a very strong and set pace that every business must follow, right? And I must commend the Data Protection Commission. They've done well, but they need to, keep improving. So whether you have an office or not, if you're going to be used in this country, you must comply with the NDPR and the NDPA, right? You must ensure that you have all the relevant mechanisms and guardrails in place. I think that the key challenge NDPC continues to have is even manpower oversight, right? Because every day, I'm in the tech and innovation space, I'm advising founders, and every day I will tell you that more platforms are being created, right? How do you bring all these platforms within a neat
and I'm trying to also imagine, we actually have our own homegrown social media platform. Who's looking at that?
So there are homegrown social media platforms. So the thing is, it's just like the market.
And it actually gets adoption. People actually want to go there and use it.
It's just like the markets, right? It's just like the markets. The market forces and deep supply. Demand determines how you supply. We are very, and I think maybe the relics of colonialism continue to show up in everything that we do. We are very foreign-minded, foreign-oriented, and anything that's imported catches our fancy more than things that are indigenous, right? So that is there. And also, the infrastructure, digital infrastructure continues to be a major problem. A lot of these platforms, right, are built in jurisdictions where they have solid digital infrastructure to back the numbers, to back the avalanche of users, right? When you bring it down home, you do not want to have a platform where 50 million people sign up to and it crashes immediately. Right. So those are some of the indigenous challenges that we continue to face.
It'd be great to see a social media platform that comes out of Africa
but I'll tell you, Ladi, I'll tell you, Ladi, that these giants all over the world, I have a friend who used to, manage the AI framework for Spotify are Nigerians, right? So I'll tell you that Nigerians are actively playing a role in building these giants that you see today, right? From Silicon Valley down to Lagos, down to Yaba, Nigerians are playing pivotal roles in building this. And that's why I said the last time I was here, our primary export is our people.
The brains.
Our brains.
Right.
And that's our primary export throughout the world. We have one of the best brains you could have. We're able to hack solutions. We're able to think out of the box. For most of us, there is even no box, right? Every time I speak, every time I travel, every time I speak to these giants all over the world, the challenge they have is infrastructure. We're coming home and, and I said, look, start somewhere. Right? Start somewhere. And a couple of them are even building out of Nigeria, but for Nigeria, but for the Nigerian markets and all that. Right? So those issues are there. If you even look at the cartoons we watched as children were foreign, right? Foreign-centered. The cartoons our children are watching today are still foreign-centered, right? Very few indigenous ones have been able to survive.
Right.
Some pop up and after some time they go, right? It's a challenge that we must fix. But you see, you don't fix this only by looking at the digital space. It cuts across our civics, history, ethics. It's good to see that history is back in the curriculum, but there's so much that we can do to reorientate. You know, if you speak to your kids today, how many of our children speak indigenous languages? Right. We want our children to speak like Americans or like British. It's a status symbol.
That's another conversation.
You know, but these are all the conversations that will morph into us now building the capacity to build indigenous products and grow and build.
Right.
But
and you know, it's quite interesting. You know, looking at the gadgets we even use to consume all of this social media. That's also imported. I see your phone. I can imagine how expensive it is and how much you have to pay for these gadgets. So it's a lot. You know, at this point.
It's a lot. But you see, the problem. I was looking at the data, and we were discussing Apple, right? And the data around. Oh, so many people use a particular phone, but these people don't have an outlet locally. And when they looked at the numbers and the data of the actual end results of the funding that got to them from these purchases,
right?
It didn't trickle down home.
All right, so much to unpack. But we've run out of time. But thank you so much. Always great having your perspective. Amori Edowa is a founder, partner, E&C Legal. Thank you so much, and I hope we find common ground.
Yes, I do hope that this bill is fine-tuned, neatened out, and it makes sense. Yes, for every party.
Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll take a moment now. When we come back, Consumer Rights Week. That's next. You stay with us.